the B stream here for Quake World Championships Day 1. My name's Ketchup, joined by Lethal. It's time for DRAMIS versus KELTZ. And it's sad to say, because we have only just started, but this is a critical point for KELTZ, who already fell 2-0 to Buckster at the start of the day. This match means everything.
It does. He needs to win this to keep himself in the group so far. Of course, losing to Buckster previously, it was quite a tough one. A lot of them were quite low fragging games, and some of them was back and forth as well. But I would have preferred it, since he's obviously, you know, very inexperienced, to maybe play DRAMIS first and then have a better chance against Buckster. But the fact that he had played against Buckster straight away, now he has to try and take down DRAMIS, which is a huge feat in itself.
It's going to be the dynamics of two styles. Not necessarily this match, but what I mean, the opponents that KELTZ has had to come up against. You had Buckster first, who was a bit slower, a bit more reserved, and a bit more reactive to what you're doing. I listen to you, or I can see you, I wait for an opportunity, and I'm confident you're going to come around that corner, or you're going to go for that item. DRAMIS is a different beast. DRAMIS is one of the fastest, most high-octane players we have in the Pro League, and that couldn't be further from Buckster's playstyle. So, it looks like we're going straight in here. Wow, not gonna lie, my first time on B-Stream this weekend, I was not expecting us to go right into the match. Let's go. Here we go, Molten Falls, DRAMIS starting off with the crouch slider, KELTZ with the slash. 2 crouch sliders for the price of 1, folks.
Lovely, can't beat it. It's not something we would normally see on the first map either, so we'll see what DRAMIS is going to bring with that strong. Of course, KELTZ rocking the slash here, and he's already performing extremely well with that rail, and then you can see he really wants this so far, right? He needs to win this matchup to keep himself in this group, to force it to a tiebreaker, but KELTZ comes out with the shoddy, gets the first frag on the board to give him some leeway here for this heavy. Thoroughly aggressive plays from KELTZ so far, and able to continue to mount that offense with the rails. The rails have been such a pain for DRAMIS at the moment, but this is going to result in a free pickup of the Mega. Now we're moving on. We're going to look for maybe some damage. We're going to try and bring ourselves back up here, get some ammo. LG is now locked in and good to go. But DRAMIS, just because you've got off to a good start does not mean DRAMIS is not going to find one opportunity and run away with it. That's one thing that I'm always keeping an eye on. KELTZ in our first series versus Buckster, very aggressive. Some would say too aggressive. I know Flea pointed that out many times. Against someone like DRAMIS, you have to be really careful with that, because DRAMIS can snowball even the smallest lead. This is the issue. DRAMIS is a very rail-heavy individual, and he's going to witness a lot of that as well in this matchup. Molten, always been something DRAMIS has been pretty damn good at. I'm surprised with the strong pick. Like, I think with Sorlag, he's going 3-0 so far at Molten Falls. He's been undefeated with Sorlag on this map, but decides to go with the strong anyway. Maybe it's more of a champion preference. Oh, nice little rocket there, but only does a bit of damage just to help himself out a tad. But DRAMIS still has that huge stack, and of course with KELTZ with the extra speed and momentum he requires in order to keep his distance, to go for that chip, but instead KELTZ is going to be backing away over towards that rail area, but still going in that stalemate situation around this corner with the rockets.
The aggressive push, actually looking for as many rockets as possible, but DRAMIS couldn't find any of them. There is I guess I should say. You can see he died with the rail in hand. He was looking for that last minute rail. He was looking for it, but KELTZ quite rightly just did not allow the angle to exist. And that was such a smart, aggressive play there. However, it doesn't look like the rail is going to be as beneficial here. It looks like now 2 of them back-to-back. DRAMIS on the offense, and now DRAMIS looking to trap and secure this next frag. KELTZ had to wait for this armor to come back, and while doing so, took up a defensive position. It was enough to stop DRAMIS from making the push. It's not going to stop DRAMIS from being able to take this heavy, however, and 3 minutes on the clock means there is plenty of time for something to happen.
He's running out of rockets, mind you, and that's what's going to be keeping in this game, especially for the defensive purposes. Oh, great rail as he circulated around towards
just ready
the
for the jump.
Area. He certainly was indeed. And now, waiting to see what DRAMIS' next move is going to be. KELTZ is in a good position, mind you, and he's got a couple of choke points covered, but you can see DRAMIS is actually going all the way back around for that heavy, as the items are relatively in sync, but not really in a position to be contested for DRAMIS to contest both anyway. So KELTZ realises that, he knows that he won't be able to get to the position, but Mega is still up, and you can see KELTZ was a little bit worried that
DRAMIS was going to get there a little bit sooner, so he decided to hang around the high ground a little bit longer than anticipated.
Well, if that did anything, it's put a delay between the two items, so depending on how this next frag goes, could definitely change the pace of things. KELTZ, weak. DRAMIS has been having such a trouble landing these rails, but who needs a rail when you've got a tri-bolt? Now, what I was going to say is the delay between these two items does create an interesting development in the match, because now we can start to have a fight on every item without having to make a choice. In this instance, KELTZ went down and spawned near heavy. DRAMIS was physically unable to go and take it, but is now able to take this mega. We're looking towards a fight now before we look towards that heavy, or if there is going to be a fight, it could definitely take place near that item. What I'm thinking is, whoever secures a fight and an item at the same time just took full control of this entire map. And with only one frag separating the two, this fight will be more important than the current score.
4.5 minutes in, KELTZ still with the lead. Mega will be up shortly as well. He's just trying to find out where KELTZ could be, and he realizes that he's already gone for the TP, so Mega will be free. Heavy's going to be up in 15 seconds. DRAMIS with a slight stack advantage here as he approaches this heavy. Will be up in 10, looking to see where else he could be coming from and where he could be contesting from. But he's actually just sitting above. Will find it, but it's been caught with the LG, but the Pika does enough damage to keep him at bay and, of course, go for that heavy, but just for additional stack, go for that light straight away. Can be a bit risky, especially in that situation, but 100% worth it for that next engagement, and finds him with the rocket, and look how much health KELTZ has. What a rail to tie things up.
That was such a marvelous play. DRAMIS chose to go forward and take that light armor first, then back off and take the heavy, knowing that KELTZ was going to disengage and then probably try and take that armor as a trade-off. It was already gone. DRAMIS is lying in wait. That rail was the icing on the cake, but that whole play was delicious. And now 5.5 minutes on the clock. DRAMIS has got so much more stack than KELTZ. He's not only got control of these items, not necessarily the mega, he's got control over this light armor too, and actually looks like he's trying to do the same thing again. Is he just going to wait this whole time? Surely not. Surely KELTZ after that mega is going to go somewhere else.
He's probably trying to make KELTZ overthink the situation, assuming that by now DRAMIS would have gone to a DLG stairs and hopefully rail area will be free for him to pick up that light, which is, you know, a lot of his mind games will come into effect, which is perfectly understandable. Heavy's going to be up in the next second, and then he's going to figure out what he wants to do with the mega afterwards. As you can see, DRAMIS just biding his time, delaying the item a little bit, but he's been caught with the LG as KELTZ just sitting there above, but the rail is just going to pay dividends there. As now we've still got just under 4 minutes left, and KELTZ, it's not like he's currently losing in terms of scoreline, but in terms of his position on the map and the stack, it's not looking too great, as DRAMIS just literally being like Pac-Man around the map with these lights and heavies.
DRAMIS, one thing about the mega health is that he has not been around when it's been collected for the past 2 or 3 cycles, so he's definitely not going to have that great timing on that. But I don't know whether that really matters. As long as he's able to get this armor, take it away from KELTZ, or the defensive plasma trail. Kind of rare, actually, that plasma trail was specifically used to deny space rather than a speed boost. But right there, DRAMIS was going to do very little to be able to chase that down, and now we move towards this major item. Looks like DRAMIS is going to get there first. KELTZ has very little to work with besides a light armor, and that's not really going to save you much given the current stack difference between these two. And now KELTZ, the aggressive rockets, just try and cover that advance, protect those hourglasses. Looks like DRAMIS is able to collect them all the same. Heavy is going to be our next objective towards this fight. Misses the drop-down rail. That would have made this Pika a lot scarier. KELTZ with a defensive rail to shut it down. A lovely rail from DRAMIS, though, as we fight towards this next major item. An even split down the middle, Lethal. This could be a close one.
It certainly will be. To be fair, it's been close the entire time, hasn't it, so far? As both of them trying to make each other overthink the situation, over-assess the situation, trying to catch each other. God, around a shotgun, he comes in, but the LG's still looking quite good for KELTZ. KELTZ has the stack advantage here. Looks to get a couple of rockets down before he approaches towards that heavy, but look at that. He was slowly thinking about prioritising the kill, instead decides to go for that heavy. What a rocket! Gets another one straight afterwards. 3-2 now as KELTZ does take the lead.
Amazing moment to take the lead because the cycle of the items is still here. KELTZ has all the items. Yes, DRAMIS has an LG, but at that point, that's all you have because you've only just spawned. And now KELTZ is in the lead. This is going to be such an important map to win, being able to just get yourself off to that good start. And DRAMIS has been in this Pro League for so long now. There's so much experience under the belt. KELTZ, the first LAN experience. This would be an amazing result, even if it is just map number 1. However, time left. DRAMIS calling out the drop down and was ready for it. But DRAMIS himself cannot risk a rail fight with his current stack. He's going to have to wait for armor. Whether it's the light near the rail, whether it's the heavy itself. Either way, that light should be able to set him up here, Lethal. And a minute 20. The Pika, that one, pure information. Where are you? How can I safely set up for this item? Actually looks like DRAMIS has no choice, but I would say to concede, but perhaps overstaying his welcome near that item as KELTZ not only takes the heavy, but a frag to boot. 2 in the lead now with a minute left to go. Unless DRAMIS can get real aggressive real fast, it's going to be a hard comeback to make, especially with KELTZ having the timing and the positioning on these items. It's going from bad to worse. DRAMIS does not have the stack at any point, and KELTZ is comfortable.
For Bloke, it's just not really making any mistakes here, and it's the last person you want to take an aim duel with for some of these items. But look at this, so 30 seconds, 2 frags, not looking too good in terms of the scenario, but DRAMIS is going to be in, as he's going to be getting away. Did take a big chunk of damage, but the peak is still after him, mind you. No, got 20 seconds left remaining. Mega's been picked up by KELTZ. That should seal it here. Just waiting for him to approach with those defensive rockets. DRAMIS is flanking around with that drive-by. Good rail, but the rocket didn't really slow him down too much. DRAMIS is coming straight in, but that direct, and then the rocket back-to-back afterwards. That's going to be the first map to KELTZ here against DRAMIS. I kind of feel like every game on Casting Review today has just been an upset.
Well, I tell you what, it was a wonderful start there for KELTZ, and that movement of Slash really, really helped him in those closing minutes when I had to disengage and I had to sort of shift the plan and I wanted to play a bit more defensively. DRAMIS has to make chase. Molten Falls, plenty of ways to move around and plenty of escape routes, so it was just really well played in that respect. And DRAMIS, if DRAMIS using a crouch slider can't catch you, you're doing something right.
Yeah.
So that was just a really, really good way to start. But by all means, we're not going to count out DRAMIS. DRAMIS could definitely take this next one. It could bring us into a third map, and who knows where we go from there. I've been keeping an eye on DRAMIS in practice, and he has been looking pretty good. He definitely seems quite confident, and we know that DRAMIS, in a situation like this, really does rise to the occasion to the best he can. So
he did in segments of the map, though, didn't he? He did in a few segments, like that rail earlier when on the drop down was just ridiculous. Both of them had some, fabulous plays across the board. A lot of style points here and there, but KELTZ just seemed like his tracking and his aim score was much, much better from what we saw compared to what it was against Buxton. But like we said before, KELTZ is very inexperienced in an offline setting. Probably his first Quake I assume, as well. And for him, to already put up this much of a feat against DRAMIS is just a fabulous start, really, to try and get himself out of these groups. Because, of course, if you missed earlier, that KELTZ did lose out to Buxton 2-0. So if DRAMIS gets taken down 2-0 by KELTZ and DRAMIS does the same thing to Buxton, we could be seeing a tiebreaker.
Knowing DRAMIS and kind of looking at the picks and bans and how things went, I feel like there's a good chance we'll go into a third map. If KELTZ gets a 2-0 on DRAMIS, I will consider that a massive upset.
Yeah.
But we're at the finals. This is where upsets are the best because they mean the most. They're the most monumental overall. But I do believe we'll be jumping into our map soon as we can. So, this is the B stream and all that, but the whole purpose is to get those matches out as quick as possible. So it's just boom, boom, boom. Sometimes it don't happen. Sometimes a player has to do something or whatever. You never know. Like the A stream is there, like way over the other side of the room. We've got all the players and that. It's always wild at an event like this.
It really is.
I miss it though. I miss the wildness of it. You know what I mean?
It's been a while, and with the community and the audience as well, just seeing everyone about. It's been absolutely lovely seeing everyone again. But yeah, it's like I said before, a lot of upsets do occur in an offline environment. We've been seeing it time and time again, and it looks like it could be happening once more. And I wasn't expecting this early on, though, in the groups. Like, some of it's predictable, some of it's not. But for KELTZ for his first event here, trying to put a really impact here on a 9th seed player in DRAMIS. But look at this already, KELTZ able to get those rockets going with the Doom, and
what
of course DRAMIS with the Ranger. Yeah, beautiful start, of course. And the Mega is still up, mind you, and he could be getting the first frag. Lovely stuff from KELTZ.
KELTZ with an absolutely wonderful start to the map, being able to take away items that you absolutely would not expect from that spawn. Being able to take the rail and then use that rail to your advantage. You back off towards the rocket, so you've already got most of the weapons that you need to make something happen this early on. And it looks like now the push is being made. KELTZ, 1 frag in the lead and in prime position to take this heavy. Now we're going to push forward and we're going to look for more damage, more DRAMIS. In this instance, I must say, DRAMIS has not had the most amazing time when it comes to hitting those rails.
DRAMIS is a very accuracy-heavy player, but he just can't hit his mark. What's going on?
This is what I mean. DRAMIS has been known for being a very rail-heavy player, but if he's not hitting his mark, then it's going to cost him so much. He knows how weak he is. Going to try and clean him up with the LG, or maybe even the tri-box. They're going to go straight in for the heavy. Heavy's coming up any second now, but the problem is, he's equally as weak. He can't really take this fight, and he's going to be the one to back away.
I love the attempt. I love the attempt, though. Using that Berserk prematurely, you know, just to cover where you need to go. You know that DRAMIS is not going to be sitting directly on the item at that time because he's too weak. Didn't quite work out, but I think KELTZ is playing with a little bit more confidence this time. I know Flea pointed out in the first time against Buckster, it almost looks like there was a bit of nerves at play. And it's so hard to pinpoint it to nerves because, you know, players experience things differently. But if you have that first match and it doesn't quite go the way you want it to, we didn't see any plays like this against Buckster. I do feel like there's an element of, look, man's more comfortable. He's more ready for what he has to do. And going up against DRAMIS has brought the absolute 150% focus. That rocket jump, probably trying to avoid a rail angle there. Not quite sure what that was. But either way, it kept him alive just a little bit longer.
No, he definitely was just trying to avoid the situation there. But in the end, DRAMIS gets another, so we'll get that lead 2-1, and we're going to see how things are going to go. No rail ammo, no LG either. Tri-bolt slowly running out, of course, but managed to replenish that no problem. DRAMIS looking a little bit better. And going back to what I was saying about KELTZ, I totally agree from what we saw when he was playing against Buckster. I watched a few of his streams, didn't seem as, you know, in terms of KELTZ, we know for his combat skills and his aggression, we didn't see as much of it, but now he seems a lot more comfortable compared to what we saw in that first game. But DRAMIS has picked up the Mega, Heavy's up in 7 seconds as KELTZ is in a position for it, can use those defensive rockets to good use, but DRAMIS is getting a little bit tempted here to make that push, but seems like there's not really much point sacrificing so much damage, but at least he managed to get a bit whilst backing off.
I sadly don't have access to my own in-game spectator at the moment, which means that I can't check the in-game stats. And that's something that I've kind of had my eye on for DRAMIS the entire time is mid-map. I kind of want to see what his rail accuracy is, because I know that he's been having a bit of a hard time with it. He did on the last map, and he has for the beginnings of Deep Embrace. But hopefully for his case, he can even it out a little bit. Now he's going to get that high ground as the LG fight breaks out. A fight that he's going to win as he gets damaged, the frag, and the item. And just like that, DRAMIS now 2 frags up, Harry. It's looking a little bit better for him at the moment.
Certainly does. I understand KELTZ's thought process. So just fire a rocket to keep him at bay, enough to keep him away so that he can try and circulate around bottom mid. But sadly, DRAMIS wasn't falling for that. Doesn't get a bit more damage from the LG. Oh, that rocket would have been so crucial if it didn't hit that pillar. Gets a little bit more done though, just trying to add a bit more to the tally. Great tri-ball coming up, he's been caught with the LG.
Hello.
KELTZ now down 4-1 as DRAMIS again just continuing to extend his lead, and he's picked up the heavy.
And from this point, DRAMIS just continues to push. No, he's going to maintain control over this map. He's going to continue to make his presence known. Tries to get a little rail as KELTZ retreats, but you know, we're going to cycle around, pick up all the items first, and then from this point, ooh, nice little nail jump just for good measure. The question is from here, how does KELTZ bring it back? Because DRAMIS is... nothing really is standing out yet. You know, this is looking like a very expected Deep Embrace. Player in the lead has the items, player in the lead's hitting the rails, he's getting the fights. It can be a difficult map to bring yourself back from because there's so much pressure laid on you the moment you've spawned again. You have to put time into getting the items piece by piece while your opponent, who's already got loads of stack, they've got loads of weapons, they've got loads of ammo. It's one of the harder maps to claw yourself back in, it can be sometimes. Depends on the champion, of course, but...
Nearly at the halfway stage now. DRAMIS still with that stack advantage. Made that a little bit bigger from that previous rail and rocket. It's got the heavy as well to boot. Looking at it so far, DRAMIS is, I wouldn't say back to the way he was before. He was performing really well the last game. It's just his rail accuracy was letting him down because he had great positioning, great angles, but didn't really have the aim skill to kind of like continue to complement that further. He's still putting on a lot of pressure onto KELTZ. But the good thing in terms of what KELTZ is doing right now, not letting the whole entire situation spiral out of control. We were seeing it time again where, you know, if we go back to the QPL, probably like 14-2 or something like that by now. But it seems like he is holding his own. He's been quite good in terms of contesting some of his items, but KELTZ is so weak. He's in an awful position at this point, caught with that last rocket, and you can see DRAMIS' patience definitely paid off.
You can definitely see, though, the on-the-spot, the aggressive, the fast nature of DRAMIS. You can really tell how dependent it is on accuracy to work. because I'm not particularly seeing a different DRAMIS in Deep Embrace than we saw on Molten Falls. The only difference I'm seeing is now he's hitting his shots, and on the last map he barely did. You know, I don't want that to sound almost a bit rude, but frankly on that first map I was looking at a lot of those rail shots and he just wasn't hitting it, and it was giving such an opening for KELTZ to fly around that map and to take such an iron fist control of it. Whereas here, DRAMIS is actually hitting the shots. And
Yeah.
it is as simple as that sometimes. And now KELTZ is definitely struggling to get back up here. And a lot of these fights, it's Tribolt versus rail. The Tribolt's not hitting anything. DRAMIS is hitting the rail in return. KELTZ is further and further behind. I just haven't seen any kind of one-up yet. I've not felt that next gear shift almost. Nice rocket. Need more than that though, because DRAMIS is the one in position for the heavy. Nice rail too. The Berserk. Oh, but 2 directs, and then the LG swiftly handles the Berserk. Not sure why he dedicated to it. Maybe he thought he did more damage than he did. Maybe he didn't realize how much stack DRAMIS had. Because, I mean, he hit, you know, some rockets and some rails, but that wasn't Berserk territory at all.
Yeah, it was an interesting play. I'm not going to lie to you. I haven't really actually got a thought process as to why he managed to do that. Maybe trying to get some extra damage, or maybe to try and get away of the situation he presented himself in, which was, of course, not really good. He didn't have
I just wanted to
height or
punch him.
anything. Yeah, maybe he just fancied the old fisticuffs and a bit of a bang up here in there. Maybe that, but 2 is 40 in. It's not going to do him any favours here. 5 frags still required. And KELTZ needs to win this next engagement in the next minute. If not, then, of course, this is where we're going to that 3rd map territory.
It's certainly a map where comebacks can be made. You know, we just need to secure a frag sooner rather than later so the comeback can begin, because DRAMIS is going to be able to play a little bit slower. DRAMIS can be a bit more reserved. It is harder to play the defensive game on Deep Embrace. It's just not the kind of map that allows for it. There are so many ways you can get caught out and chased and everything else. But that said, KELTZ needs to get something pretty much now, otherwise anything less than 2 minutes is a tall order for someone to perform a comeback, not while DRAMIS is, again, just mixing up KELTZ with that orb. KELTZ is consistently convinced he's going to teleport to it. Both times DRAMIS has not done it.
No, not at all, but at least KELTZ does have that stack, but it's going to stop him from getting heavy, though. It's going to be an issue. Stacks are quite equal here, looking to try and get that initial rail. Both players miss each other's rails. Still got a minute 40 left here, but KELTZ really needs to force the situation. He can't really mess about anymore. He's only got 90 seconds left remaining. Oh, I like the Tribolt, though. Trying to get a little bit more. 29 HP, but it is available. Just needs to clean him up, but just not being given that window once again. Deary me.
That one rail missing. Hurt my soul, it did. If that rail actually hit its mark there, DRAMIS would have gone down. The pressure could have been on, and it would have still been within time, in theory, to make something happen, but I just fear that this is now taking far too long to secure. And actually, sadly, I must point out, this was a trouble that KELTZ had against Buckster. KELTZ was really struggling to finish the job in a lot of instances where there's good damage, but there's just not enough to finish it with. The aggressive Berserk, the chase again, but not really achieving anything. It creates a rail angle. DRAMIS does have health to fall back to. Sadly misses that rail. A direct rocket though, but you've got to be able to finish the job. You cannot allow him to escape, and sadly that one gap was all that was necessary. DRAMIS, the rocket jump messed up. 3 frags in 30 seconds. I mean, it's...
Delay respawn, about 15 seconds between the 3. I don't know if this is going to happen, but if he does make it happen, it will be an absolute miracle. He's getting so much done as well. You can see DRAMIS panicking a little bit just to try and survive.
Hang on, wait, 15 seconds. Delayed spawns, but 15 seconds for 2. This is still Deep Embrace. Where's he going to go? 10 seconds? Oh, I don't think so.
No,
he's going to delay it. He's going to delay it. It can't be done.
As much as I would love for it to happen, that would have been a ridiculous miracle to see. It certainly isn't. But at least he managed to close the gap and keep it as competitive as possible. So, genius from both players. DRAMIS is going to come out on top on that second map. So we are going to go into a 3rd and final game here to see who is going to be victorious in this series. And also, you've got to remember, for KELTZ, this is his final lifeline here. Needs to win this map to stay in the groups.
I could only imagine the stress. You know, to train all year and to find yourself in a situation where, right, you've qualified for the finals, so that's a wonderful feat in itself. But now it's game day. We've only been live for a few hours, really.
Feels like longer now.
before you know it, you've got potentially one map left. Like that is a lot to conquer. Because let's look at this realistically. Like Quake, we love Quake, right? You watching and us talking and the players. Like, we love Quake.
but damn, is it a stressful game. Like, on the best of days, this game is stressful. And you're adding all the elements to the World Finals on top of it.
It is one of the most stressful games possible. I think
it really is, isn't it?
I think everyone
really
is. But that's why it's one of the best games out there in terms of skill ceiling and everything else. You can't beat it. In terms of the individual skill, you can't beat it at all in the slightest. But yeah, honestly, and the fact that one of the very few esports where, you know, you get players who've been around for 20, 25 years still competing in this game and they're still at it as well in the pro league, in a professional manner. You don't get that really in any other games. Or if you did, it's extremely rare, like rare in itself.
It's something to be celebrated, isn't it? The legacy that Quake has as a franchise, and the fact that, as you quite rightly said, we do have players that have been around for longer than some current esports pros in the industry have been alive sometimes as well. So to find ourselves in this situation where, right, we have one map left to go. DRAMIS, I think, is going to be mentally okay with this, you know, because we've been in that final map scenario many times before.
He loves a good final map.
Like, it's rise to the occasion. I just hope that KELTZ can match it. Let's look at the fact that it's Awoken, but it's two weird champions. We didn't get to look at the picks and bans before, of course, so we wouldn't have had the chance to look at this and talk about it. But Visor versus BJ as a map 3 is rare. And it's going to provide a very different experience for both these players. DRAMIS, the access to damage, the disengage, and the slight health regeneration. Quite important. KELTZ, information above all, especially on a map like this where, you know, the more we see people grind and grind, the optimal use for Piercing Sight can be to save it for after the fight and then use it to trap someone on spawn.
Is this a map 6 grand final in terms of champion picks? Well, I suppose you would see a kill, wouldn't we? Come up.
It would be a kill. It would be a kill. No one's going to ban him and no one's going to pick him.
No, I know. Poor 40, eh? Never mind.
Sorry,
maybe one day.
Sorry, 40.
He needs to pray for a map 6 grand final. As we're literally approaching the minute mark so far. Yeah, it's. I think BJ works better than Visor on Awoken, considering what you can do for these items, but we'll see what KELTZ can do with this Visor, as now he's back in eye once again, still available as DRAMIS does pick up that bubble, but Heavy is up. It's been up for quite a while, mind you. Mega's now also up, so at least if he doesn't get it, then KELTZ can just report back to the Mega anyway, which he has done. Still needs to look for another light to get back to the a decent armor stack, but even then, though, DRAMIS is just biding his time for now. Just trying to look for a way in to try and get out of the situation, but also keeping that high ground and keeping on the choke point around Mega and contesting the Heavy.
DRAMIS with a lot more patience again. Kind of reminiscent of that Molten Falls where he was able to surprise KELTZ a couple of times. Now, if you can start the map off with that, especially with what's on the line, that's quite the comfort zone to begin with and an opportunity to take some real control. The dual wield comes out, used specially to just try and secure. I would like this item, and I don't want you ruining my plans. Now, the defensive rocket was pretty good there from KELTZ, well timed, and it's going to undo all of the hard work that DRAMIS put in to rebuilding that stack. Now has to start from fresh. In position for Heavy, trying to get some damage right as we start here to prevent KELTZ from pushing and just cementing himself the way he has already. Sadly unable to hit it. Does hit the rail on the retreat, which might make this Mega a bit more interesting. Misses the rail again. DRAMIS has not been as consistent with this rail as we are used to. Some good use of the rockets, no use of the teleporter. KELTZ knows that would be a suicide mission and it's not going to be worth it. But now 10 seconds until Heavy. KELTZ is the one critically low on armor. Even one good rocket is going to take that armor away. The rail's going to start it. KELTZ now railable, Harry. Can we land a rail before the next item gets taken? Looking for it. Didn't believe in the angle. There was a half second of an angle to be had there.
Certainly was. KELTZ in a really rough place right now. Position, it's okay, but he needs to pick up some of his lights around that T junction and around LG, but tries to pick up the run around T. As we're still 3 minutes in, and DRAMIS is just having the problems that KELTZ had in that last map, just ain't been able to seal some of these frags. But KELTZ has been pretty good, been a little bit predictable here and there, but it's also been quite confident in some of the decisions he wants to make with the rotations as well. But a little bit of a rail off there for the Heavy, but DRAMIS will pick that up with ease. Mega is still up. DRAMIS doesn't get the drive-by he required. And now we're almost back to even fit in terms of stack. One more light should do it, and then the KELTZ will be a little bit more comfortable in terms of how he wants to approach some of these bouts in the process.
This is a much more careful Awoken than we are used to seeing. DRAMIS is going to pull the trigger on that dual wield. He's going to try and put himself towards just to take a bit more of this map. And I kind of like that timing. You know, the banana section doesn't have access to the same. The hourglasses hadn't been taken, is what I'm trying to say. He's be able to speed that up just a little bit. Heavy's now going to be that next item here. They take one each. There's no split between them, so it is going to result in a pretty interesting 30 seconds, to be honest, especially when the item's just about to appear. Almost at that 5-minute warning, and again, neither player wants to push too hard into this fight. It's a scary situation, I can imagine. You know, every decision you're going to make, everything you would or wouldn't do is going to be questioned so much more in this setting, especially if you're in KELTZ's shoes. One mistake that causes you to lose the map, you will regret that for the rest of the year and onwards.
Sure, KELTZ knows DRAMIS thrives off map freeze or final maps, loves to get the jitters here and there and make sure to try and solidify the deal. He's caused upsets in the past, but he's in a position where KELTZ could actually do the same to him right now. Halfway point and Awoken, still no frags. Each player, I would say each player's been cautious, but there's been times where KELTZ has been quite confident about some of the rotations he's making and then carries on forward, and sometimes he's been quite defensive. So he's been changing things up in terms of his style, but it's been frustrating DRAMIS a little bit, just constantly changing where he's going to go and what he's going to do. But that damage there from that last rocket will give him a lot of leeway, and it does mean that he will not be able to contest this heavy. Does get a rail, mind you, but again, look at the stack, not really going to do too much.
DRAMIS used the dual wield there to classic BJ fashion, get you to not push him and to stay away from the item, but it kind of looked like KELTZ wasn't even remotely interested. KELTZ is now conceding full control of this map, and I'm a little bit worried about that. If KELTZ is trying to err on the side of caution, but to the point where that caution becomes fear, I'm not sure it's going to work. Because look, DRAMIS, there is no contest on that item. Yes, there was a defensive angle for KELTZ who's prioritized this heavy. And there we go!
No!
The juggle! Ring out, baby! That was unbelievable! And now one frag up!
5 minutes 45, and that's how the first frag goes. That is ridiculous. And now KELTZ
sent him to space with that one.
He certainly did indeed. But LG comes out from between the two, but KELTZ has the advantage, looking to try and get a little bit more with that tri-bolt, assuming that he may be around the health bubbles. But again, DRAMIS got away pretty damn quick. Heavy is up shortly. KELTZ has got the shoddy, and he knows that it's just a matter of time. If DRAMIS pushes any further, he will be able to secure that second frag. But look at the stack difference as well. 3 minutes 40 in. KELTZ, you can see the confidence flaring on his position so far, and is using that piercing sight just to get confirmation that he is still round T as he approaches this mega. Very, very important information required.
That was still such an unbelievable play. KELTZ gave KELTZ gave up the entire map just to set up on heavy for that exact scenario. And DRAMIS fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. And what an unbelievable choice. The defensive use of the dual wield doesn't work. KELTZ gets a clean frag, barely any damage dealt in the meantime, and actually 2-0. He's looking really good. DRAMIS only has a machine gun. KELTZ doesn't give a damn about that. The gauntlet was all that was available, and DRAMIS sitting around on Mega. There's still 10 seconds left to go. Did he have timing? Did he lose it? Is he flustered right now?
He must have just had an educated guess, but DRAMIS finally, after 7 minutes, does get that first frag. And once he gets his armor, and you got to remember, KELTZ can't play this defensively or passively in any way, shape, or form. It's way, way too early. He realizes this. All he gets a lot of LG. Seems to be not really thinking about that at all with the slightest. Great rocket coming out. He's going to try and make it a full frag. He does. And he picks up the heavy. Barely took any stack from that as well. And it's just biding his time to see where DRAMIS is going to go next. He wants to try and add a couple more to the tally to seal this third map.
It's the same again, though, and at least in this time, DRAMIS did not stick around on Mega like a couple of frags ago. I do strongly think that was a mistake, and being able to just disengage, calm yourself down, collect yourself. We've still got 2 minutes and 10 seconds on the clock. I will say, though, that if KELTZ can win this, what a unbelievable way to keep yourself alive in this tournament. But there is still 2 minutes left to go. DRAMIS is making push, but he's taking so much damage. In the meantime, now 5 frags to 1. KELTZ takes yet another frag in this map, and he's just looking to chain it together over and over again. He's got full control of Awoken. The aggressive push with the dual wield on the LGs. I don't even know if DRAMIS is going to be able to reach the Mega in time. He can, but he takes a rail in the process, and that's going to continue the lead that KELTZ has been working so hard to build up at this rate. We're staying alive.
God, B stream popping right now. Already KELTZ is going to cause an upset. here against DRAMIS, and that's going to shake things up in this group massively, as well. I'm sure we'll talk about that in that next game, but let's focus on this so far. Minute 20, still only requires 5 frags, but looking barely doable at all, especially if KELTZ delays every single spawn. But even then though, KELTZ actually isn't really worried about it at all. He's just trying to play his game and trying to increase the frag count, and he has done 7-1. That's going to put the final nail in the coffin. And even then though, still just trying to get a bit more rail done, but the damage has been done. So it looks like KELTZ is going to take down DRAMIS, one of the lower seeds from challenges. And after the performance against Buckster and then playing against DRAMIS, totally night and day difference.
Yeah, that's a pretty insane way to keep yourself alive in this tournament. And if anything, that's going to give you confidence like nothing. So obviously, we will find out what's going to happen in regards to this later in the day when everyone's actually played their matches. And if there are any tie situations, obviously, admin will look in and find out what the deal is going to be. And rest assured, everyone will be updated as and when that happens. But for now, KELTZ taking it 2-1 over DRAMIS, staying alive after a crushing defeat to Buckster 2-0 as they played earlier today on the main stream. A 9-1 finish and a bit of a wake-up call maybe for DRAMIS. DRAMIS is going to have to really revise now and think. He might not have much time, but now DRAMIS not as safe as some might thought he would have been.
From the top of my head, all I can assume is if Buckster takes down DRAMIS, then Buckster and KELTZ is through. If DRAMIS takes down Buckster 2-0, then it could shake things up massively here. So this is something we have to look into later on, because it depends on how many maps DRAMIS actually drops.
It does.
Because if he does take down Buckster 2-0, then of course they might go through based on map wins, but we'll do that later on, it's fine.
But either way, I mean, we have to say congratulations there to KELTZ. The job is not done. You know, there's still work to do in the groups. Players have to get all their matches done. We have to get all the information and the data to figure out what the journey is going to conclude at for day one. You know, day two is where the main bracket begins, and we want to find out who's going to share that bracket with the rest of the top 8 that are already lying in wait and using their opportunity today to practice and observe, I think. Check out the matches that are happening. But that is going to be our latest series here on our B stream. Make sure you have both streams open if you can, because we have our main stream taking place on Quake, this being Quake 2. And I feel like, well, what else is there left to do but say we'll see you in a bit with our next matchup when it's ready. Won't be long.